And welcome back to Ultraman, Netflix's original anime series. It's season 2. It's taken 3 years for them to come back and do a season 2. I'm guessing that has something to do with COVID. Nevertheless, first season had 13 episodes. This time we have 6, which is disappointing. But is it any good? Is it worth your while to get stuck into the second season? Let's talk about it. Ultraman teams up with Seven, Ace, Zophy, Jack, and Toro, and together the United Ultraman Brotherhood takes on a new alien threat. So we'll say, the first episode I didn't think was very good. It took me a while to get back into the style of animation that this is. So it's 3D, CG, shell shaded. If you're not used to that, when they're talking, when they're moving around, it just doesn't feel right. It's clunky, it's very robotic even when they're not in their suits, and it just feels wrong. It takes you about an episode to remind yourself, oh yes, okay, that's what they did with this series. However, when you get into episode 2 and you start getting into the better action sequences that they are, when you're seeing the multiple different uses of the different Iron Man, Ultraman suits, the Hulkbuster, you have the various swords ones, you have the ones that are quirky and funny, each with their own characteristics, which you don't get a lot of time spent on any of their backgrounds. You just get some moments with them, a little bit in dialogue, and that's when it works best. That's when the action sequences come alive and you're like, yeah, okay, I can enjoy this for what it is. I would say don't listen to this in the English dubbing. The dubbing is fine, like the voice work that they use is fine, but the translation isn't great. There was a line that just took me out of it completely, and my brain went, hang on a minute, that isn't right. And then I went and looked and checked and went, oh yes, of course. Switched over to the Japanese. The mouth's movements are matched up rightly, and some of the characters that were portrayed as stupid, one in particular, like a female, one of the female bad guys that is in this, she is portrayed in English as a kind of quirky, dumb blonde almost, like she doesn't understand all that's there, even though she is a princess. When you go to the original language, much more intelligent just in the language. So the difference there is weird. I don't know why they chose to do it that way, but you can see it straight away. Even in how it's being translated isn't correct. A good example of testing this would be to put the English on and the subtitles on, and you'll see how different it is. Okay, so bearing in mind that it's only 6 episodes and they're 25 minutes apiece, you take out the intro and the outro, you get about 20 minutes of solid, I guess, storytelling. There isn't a lot of exposition dumping here where they just go, blah, this is the story. You kind of have to figure out what's going on with the bad guys just wanting to take over Earth. It's a very kind of Thanos storyline. If you don't give me what I want, I'm going to wipe out half of the Earth and its people. Just obey me. You don't really ever get to find out what's the motivation behind the main player, the bad guy, which is kind of somewhat frustrating. We know that they're going to do a 3rd season, and we know that that's probably where the storyline is going to be revealed. But for now, they give us no storyline as to the motivation of the bad guy. So what you end up with is just bad guy being bad for the sake of the bad guy. So then what you're reliant on is the Ultraman kind of storylines. And there's one that is, I guess, the one that they follow more, one of the newbies, who his storyline and the person that he's trying to save and the reason why he becomes an Ultraman. And that is interesting, but it also is very tick the box. If you took a Power Ranger movie and you saw these little minions that the Power Rangers have to defeat, and then at the end you get a giant mechanoid, it's definitely following that kind of suit. And you've probably seen it in the live action Ultraman storyline, so it's not like it's doing anything different. But I was hoping that it was going to be a bit meatier. I think the first story lends itself, because there's so much time, like double the amount of episodes, they have time to go into backstory. This time, they've kind of rushed the story, so it feels like there's always action from episode 2. There isn't a lot of downtime. So that does keep up the pace, but it doesn't give you a lot of time to really get invested into the characters. So although I loved the action sequences in parts, I thought it was vibrant and fun, and you get used to the 3D CG shell shading. That is fun, and you are there for it, but sometimes there's characters that kind of don't make it or get hurt, and I wasn't going, oh yeah, okay, well that's sad. I was just like, oh cool, okay, let's see what happens next. Wasn't emotionally invested. Okay, so putting that all aside, was it entertaining? Yes, it was. Did it look good once I switched my brain off? Yes, I did. Do I understand what was happening in the story, like with the main bad guys? Kind of, but I don't understand why. So it definitely has a mixed feeling as to this is the middle part of the story. They need to have almost given us the third part coming out in a couple of weeks so that this middle part will make much more sense. I feel like it will when we have that third season, but for now it just kind of sits there. Some really fun action sequences. Great seeing all the Ultramen and their various kind of powers together. I liked that bit of it. There are also times where the camera angles for the storylines didn't really make sense. Someone would say, oh, can you see that person over there? Literally like 8 meters away, and kind of the character goes, I don't know if I can see. Oh yes, there they are. There are character lines, and again it comes to the dubbing, that you just feel like weren't translated right. And so the characters end up saying something or looking in a direction with the camera that isn't quite right. So for everything this anime series does right, it also does wrong. So I'm going to give it 2.5 Nicolas Cages out of 5. And those 2.5 points come from the look of it, the fighting sequences, and then for everything good, there is a negative. So I'm going straight down the middle. Let me know your thoughts. I think the first season is better, but that's because they had more time to play with it. I do like the fighting sequences, but the story just is, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching this, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.